If you were a young and impressionable youth with a taste for high-speed thrills, jaw-dropping lean angles, and a penchant for general mischief, then the 90s was the decade for you. It was a decade of excellent superbikes that saw the proliferation of speed and performance in sales numbers the industry has never seen before. We've taken the time to select quite a few bikes from the 90s that was not only reliable, but also popular consumer picks that had epic speed, comfort, and handling. Sports touring is the category that Suzuki aimed to hit with the new series, and they did so fairly successfully. The RF 900 was particularly a good hit with the press and the public. Like most bikes from the 1990s, the Suzuki RF 900R looked good, but it was also track and highway capable. On top of that, it came with a reasonable price tag, which made people love it even more. This beautiful two-wheeler got its 937cc engine with up to 125 horsepower and 70 pounds of torque. The Suzuki RF 900R has a top speed of 165 miles per hour and a quarter-mile acceleration of 10.8 seconds. Stiff suspension made the bike ideal for carrying a pillion, slotting right into the idea of a sports bike, being capable of touring comfortably. There are many motorcycles from the 1990s that have left a lasting impression on the industry, but the Ducati Monster is one of the most instantly recognizable. It first rolled onto the scene in 1992 and would change Ducati's fortune for the better. It was powered by a Desmodromic 904cc air-cooled L-twin engine with impressive power figures of 78 horsepower and 53 pound-feet of peak torque. Despite looking something like a cruiser, it had the propensity to lean way over and pull wheelies out of corners. The only unimpressive feature was the price tag. It was not cheap. However, Ducati remedied this by releasing a smaller 600cc model a year later with lower specs and a lower price tag. The Triumph Daytona was a direct response to Japanese racing bikes like the Ninja and CBR. The Daytona 900 was a clear message that Triumph would not go quietly into the night, that they had something to offer the sporting bike world. The Daytona quickly became a favorite of American bike riders. It did not dethrone the Japanese bikes, but it did establish the fact that bikes made outside of Japan could be fun and fast. It has evolved into a beautiful bike that performs remarkably in the area of speed and agility. The design is fully fared in the manner of Japanese superbikes, but had its own distinctive style and was somehow utterly British. Despite being too heavy and large to be a true sports bike, it had charismatic and strong high-speed stability that impressed contemporary testers and customers. This motorcycle was produced for 9 years, from 1994 until 2003. Kawasaki was actually blindsided by the Honda CBR 900RR, so they had to respond against their longtime nemesis with this bike. As such, Kawasaki called the Ninja ZX-9R an alternative to the CBR. But after its release, it took on a life of its own. It cultivated its own reputation for being an excellent sports tourer. The original ZX-9R was a little on the heavy side, but this design flaw wasn't an issue for long. Granted, it had 125 horsepower, which was 10 higher than the CBR 900RR, but it couldn't challenge the class leader directly. But it's still a very tough bike capable of six-figure mileage and a top speed of 170 miles per hour. Although the RC45 is over 18 years old, it's still just as fast as its today's counterpart. Back in the 90s, its silky handling and great character made it one of the best things on the road. Honda's RC45 features a V4 engine, which reaches competitive speeds of up to 160 miles per hour. When it was created, the designers at Honda combed through their extensive body of knowledge gained from HRC-inspired racing bikes. They wanted it to be a worthy competitor for the Superbike World Championship. Thankfully, their hard work paid off, and this is why the RC45 is one of the 10 best sports bikes of the 90s era. The very first FZR 1000 was released in 1987 and was able to set a record of 155 miles per hour. Fortunately, the manufacturers didn't stop there, because the FZR 1000 now had numerous upgrades by 1991. By then, its performance and handling went up a notch, thanks to the upside-down forks. It offers 145 horsepower and an impressive maximum torque of 107 Nm. Weighing 209 kilograms, the vehicle is able to reach top speeds of 170 miles per hour. The FZR 1000 had also changed valve sizes and angles, chassis, and received more power at this point. But in 1996, the lineup finally got replaced by the YZF 1000 Thunderace. This motorcycle is the blueprint for every Suzuki sports bike that followed it. It was the company's take on an entry-level sports bike, and its birth marked the end of the double cradle frame for this brand. The Suzuki GSX-R 750 is remembered for its lightweight twin spar frame. Weighing only 163 kilograms, the bike can reach top speeds of up to 173 miles per hour and 86.3 Nm of maximum torque. With speeds like that, the Suzuki GSX-R 750 gives the Kawasaki ZX-11 a run for its money. It even beat the Ducati 916 in the quarter mile. Lighter than the contemporary 600s of its era, the GSX-R 750 was a wicked package of low weight, good power, and a sublime chassis. It took an Italian supermodel to put a dent in Honda's dominance in the 90s. Ducati also had a good contribution at that time, proving that it really is the Ferrari of motorcycles. The Ducati 916 is known to be a great bike with superior styling. Not only was it beautiful, but it also performed staggeringly well too. Powered by Ducati's 916cc liquid-cooled L-Twin with 114 horsepower and 67 pound-foot of torque, the 916 was behind its closest rivals, but only on paper. With a broad torque spread and outstanding agility, it was able to win a World Superbike Championship title and the hearts and minds of sport bike enthusiasts all over the world. And that's why it's on our list. Tadao Baba's CBR 900RR remains one of the most desirable sport bikes of the 90s. The bike was granted the nickname the Fireblade. It was Honda's first RR-dubbed bike, the first of a legacy of models. The CBR 900RR Fireblade wiped the floor with competitor motorcycles at the time. Not because it was faster or more powerful, but due to it being lighter. The vehicle's 893cc engine generates 122 horsepower, and its torque is 88 Nm, which helps the bike reach speeds of up to 160 miles per hour. In short, the 1992 Honda CBR 900RR was the shot that started the litter bike war. No list of the best motorcycles of the 1990s would be complete without a heavyweight sports machine like this. ZX-11 was the fastest production motorcycle around, with a record top speed of 176 miles per hour. It was certainly beaten by the Blackbird later on, but the ZX-11 held on to the title for 6 years in the 1990s. It featured a 1052cc inline-4 engine that could produce a massive 145 horses at the crank, with 80 pound-foot of peak torque too. With a top speed of 176 miles per hour, it was dangerously fast, and the rivalry sparked between Kawasaki and Honda only encouraged the genesis of another contender, one that would change the landscape of motorcycling for good.